Sandy Shellis, and I am going live 2 days in a row because, well, despite all of the really shitty things that are going on geopolitically in the United States, I'm pretty angry. It's really disturbing. It's really ugly. There's a lot of ugliness going on. Bombings by a MAGA nutcase, synagogue shooting by a Nazi. I feel like our country is actually being taken over by nationalist fringe. It's scary. And not much I could do about it today. What we could say is we got to vote, right? So instead of talking about all this depressing, negative crap, I'm going to prime myself and do this little article before I go out. Because today, even though it's a rainy, crappy day, I'm going to a concert. Been planned since July. I'm happy to get out. So this article I found in Slate, and it says, reducing your carbon footprint still matters. And I do believe that, despite the cesspool of shit we're swimming in. In fact, getting politicians and industry to address climate change may start at home. It's kind of what I say, right? And then the article goes on. 2 weeks ago, the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change released a dire report that made crystal clear that we have about a decade to stop catastrophic levels of climate change. The report caught fire for another extremely near deadline. It suggests that if we don't manage to dramatically shift carbon emissions, we'll start feeling the brunt of the effects as soon as 2040. These dates have prompted a more urgent asking of the oft-discussed question, how do we start this Herculean task? How do we do this? Recent articles in Vox, The Guardian, and The Outline have warned that individuals going green in daily life won't make enough of a difference to be worth the effort. In fact, they argue, such efforts could actually make matters worse, as focusing on individual actions might distract people from pressuring corporations and government officials to lower greenhouse gas emissions and enact the broader policy change that we all need to meet our climate goals. These articles and others like them, including in Slate, tend to conclude that the only true meaningful action people could take is to influence, to influence our climate future is to vote. Well, voting is crucial. But this perspective misses a large point of individual actions. We don't recommend taking personal actions like limiting plane rides, eating less meat, or investing in solar energy because all of these small tweaks will build up to enough carbon savings, though it could help. Well, okay. And we do so because people taking action in their personal lives is actually one of the best ways to get a society that implements the policy level change that is truly needed. Research on social behavior suggests lifestyle change can build momentum for systemic change. Humans are social animals, and we use social cues, cues to recognize emergencies. People don't spring into action just because they see smoke. They spring into action because they see others rushing in with water. The same principle applies to personal actions on climate change. Psychologists Bill Latane and John Darley texted this exact scenario in a now classic study. Participants filled out a survey in a quiet room, which suddenly began to fill with smoke from a vent set up by the experimenters. When alone, participants left the room and reported the apparent fire. But in the presence of others who ignored the smoke, participants carried on as though nothing were wrong. People don't spring into action just because they see the smoke. They spring into action because they see others rushing in with water. The IPCC has sent up a flare on climate change, but this warning is not enough. Many people will need to see others making real changes instead of carrying on with business as usual. Ask yourself, do you believe politicians and businesses will act as urgently as they need to if we keep living our lives as though climate change wasn't happening? Individual acts of conservation alongside intense political engagement are what signal an emergency to those around us, which will set larger changes in motion. It's true that fossil fuel companies bear the lion's share of responsibility for this crisis, and that consumers buying efficient light bulbs will not set things right. We need government action to shift our energy sources from coal and gas to sunlight and wind. It's also true that short-sighted campaigns for lifestyle change can backfire. When campaigns focus only on easy consumer tweaks and say nothing about policy, they imply climate change requires little real effort and that consumers can fix this crisis alone. But when individuals supplement policy efforts with substantial, sustained, and wide-ranging action, they inspire new social norms. These norms can then aggregate to large-scale impacts. For instance, mass lifestyle change, flying and driving less, eating less meat, heating and cooling homes less, reducing food waste help cover gaps where policy change would fall short of our climate goals. More importantly, social norms can spark collective action and move the needle on policy. As in previous cultural shifts, like those around smoking or drunk driving, most people will need to see fossil fuels as an extreme danger to human health and safety, which is what we try to do all the time. A powerful way to spread this attitude is to act like in our own lives, minimizing the fossil fuels we burn. Climate scientist Peter Kalmus, who has not flown since 2012, summarizes this attitude. Quote, "I try to avoid burning fossil fuels because it's clear that doing so causes real harm. I don't like harming others, so I don't fly." Unquote. Let me get my battery charger in there because we is going to die. And I'm going to lose one of them because I only have one battery charger. So let's see what happens. I'm sorry. Forgive me. Not professional today. You guys hang on. Okay. Sorry for the... All right. So let me finish reading this and then we can talk. Because I thought it was good and everything's falling apart over here. Okay. So this guy, he said he doesn't, want to fly. So one person skipping a flight will not solve global warming alone, but when one person withdraws from a system that causes harm, they make that harm palpable to others. How can we get large numbers of people to make such changes? Psychologists find that conservation behavior spreads across people. It's not enough to tell people they should conserve. People have to see what others do. For instance, the odds of someone buying solar panels for their roof go up for each home, in the neighborhood that already has them. So, in fact, homes with solar panels more visible from the street have an even larger impact on neighbors. This is because people's actions reveal what they value. When people see their neighbors conserve energy, they infer that their community values environmental action. That's kind of cool. Nothing wrong with this. Nothing at all. Advocates similarly gain credibility by walking the walk. In a study released this week, community organizers who own solar panels themselves recruited 63%, don't fall, more homeowners to install solar panels than community organizers who did not. Again, people preferred or inferred that advocates with solar panels believed more in the importance of the issue. So what can you do when current norms promote unsustainable behaviors like frequent flying or eating large amounts of meat? Change the norms. People will likely rapidly adapt. In one recent study, cafe patrons learned that 30% of Americans had recently changed their behavior by eating less meat. These patrons were twice as likely to order a meatless lunch compared with the control group, which is 1 in 3 people versus 1 in 6. Why? Changing a habit takes effort. When people do it, they signal the importance of change. Change also signals that more people will curb their meat eating in the future, and people conform to this anticipated norm as if it were a current reality. Finally, change signals that anyone can take climate action, and eating less meat is not just for vegetarians. As a rule of thumb, the most substantial the change you make, the more you signal the need for change. When you order that veggie burger, even though you're a meat lover, take a bus instead of an Uber, or skip a professional conference that requires air travel, you deliver a message that fossil fuels are dangerous and that climate change requires an urgent response. How many people does it take to start change? Just one. I've started change. Of course I have. This insight comes from research on social dilemmas, or situations in which people can contribute towards communal well-being, as in reducing emissions and calling representatives, or can ride along for free while others do the work. Psychologists study these situations using tasks that pit individual gains against collective good. In one task, anonymous players can contribute money to a collective fund, which gets doubled and redistributed, or they can keep their money and benefit from their contributions of their fellows. Share more and the group benefits, keep more and you benefit. In general, people contribute more when they see others do it too, even if only one other person starts the trend at first. Climate change scholar Steve Westlake found this exact pattern in a recent survey. Among respondents who knew one person who gave up flying for the environment, half flew less themselves. Flying less does reduce emissions. Crucially, though, social norms provide a backdrop for policy change. When people forge an initial commitment to a cause, like buying less meat, they often proceed to political commitments, like contacting a senator. Well, these are things that you can do instead of waiting to die. People don't like to be hypocrites. They like harmony between their lifestyles and their politics. Rather than undermining political action, sustainable living prompts sustainable voting. A caveat: these benefits emerge when conservation requires some sacrifice. Easy, single-shot actions like buying efficient light bulbs make us feel like we have done our part and can disengage. More challenging, ongoing actions like changing our diets propel us forward into action. Just as sacrifice convinces others that climate action is important, it convinces us of our own commitment. We start to see ourselves as climate activists or advocates. Eating less meat creates a gateway to workplace advocacy, like encouraging digital meetings or lobbying for solar panels, which opens a door to signing petitions or protesting. I know a lot of you are going to say it's a bunch of bullshit, or hopium, or whatever you want to say. But we're still alive, aren't we? Right? Still alive. So I'm going to go down to the bottom. They talk about California just passed a law known as SB 100. By 2045, the numbers do get me, the fifth largest economy in the world will be powered by 100% renewable electricity. Okay. This bill was sponsored by State Senator Kevin De Leon, who has challenged Dianne Feinstein for her Senate seat. A tough race in which any challenger needs good PR. If California's had no reputation for energy conservation and environmental concern, would De Leon have taken a political risk anyway and prioritized passing SB 100? Perhaps not. So basically the article, there are plenty of things to do about climate change beyond voting. Take a train or bus instead of a plane, even if inconvenient, especially when inconvenient. Take a digital meeting instead of a in-person one, even if you give up expense travel. Go to a protest, invest in non-carbon energy, buy solar panels, eat at meatless restaurants, canvass for climate-conscious candidates. Do whichever of these you can as conspicuously as you can. With each step, you communicate an emergency that needs all hands on deck. Individual action across supermarkets, skies, roads, home, workplaces, ballot boxes sounds an alarm that might just wake us up from our collective slumber and build a foundation for the necessary political change. Well, you know what? I liked it. And I don't really care if anybody tells me it's hopium, because I do espouse doing something. I don't espouse sitting in your butt and watching this happen. I don't like that everybody was touting that the Republicans know that climate change is futile, so why bother? I don't like that. I think it's not healthy for anybody. Whoa! I don't think it's healthy for, I'm not having a good time here. I don't think it's healthy for anyone to sit back and just say, oh, fuck it. You know, and I'm going to tell you really quickly before I go. Recently, ever since this IPCC report, you know, I do a lot of recycling. Hi, forest dweller. I didn't say hi to any of you, but I do a lot of recycling. I do, you know, we heat with firewood, catalytic converter. We do what we can do. I don't go anywhere unless I have to. And right now, the things I have to do are these goddamn doctor's appointments, which are driving me out of my mind. But I don't go anywhere if I don't have to. I'm trying to lessen the carbon footprint because we grow food and we don't buy factory farm meat. I don't, okay? It's all these little things. Even if it's just a feel-good thing, even if we know that the Arctic's melting, even if we know we're screwed up, messed up, why can't we just do them anyway? I bet a lot of you are motivated that are with me today. Veg says, I manage a tiny urban forest, which makes my neighbors hate me. Well, tough shit. Too bad. I've had neighbors hate me too. Right now I have a neighbor that doesn't like me because he's seasonal and he wants to tap into my well. And I said, no, you can't tap into my well. No, I wouldn't. I just don't want to deal with that. You know, I don't even know the dude really well. Comes up here. He's seasonal. But anyway, I wanted something today that was a little bit of a feel-good thing that would maybe motivate people and just to think about your own patterns, your own self, what you do. You know, the last thing I did yesterday, somebody, and it was funny because I had made a point that, I put on my lip gloss. And then the guy sent me an article on how horrible makeup is. And it's something I do. I like. I've been conditioned. I'm old. I mean, we followed this whole, buy into the makeup thing forever. And I guess I try to use, stuff that's not too invasive, and I recycle the plastic. But whatever it was, he sent me the article and I thought it was interesting. Do I want to not wear makeup? I don't know. I don't many days of the week. But it was interesting that he sent that because I made the comment about putting the lip gloss on. So if that's something to do that can actually inspire others, maybe it's something I should think about. Because I wanted to, for the very longest time, I wanted to do something on the environmental effects of the cosmetic industry. And I never got around to it because, like everything else, I'm scattered and I can't get my research done, or I just, have a hard time. But of doing things I want to do. This impromptu stuff works for me. I get an idea, something's bothering me, I'm on. I like the article. I don't like what's going on in the United States. I think that right now we are really there's a nationalist infection. It's ugly. And nationalism reaps what we're seeing in violence. Patriotism seeks to get rid of nationalism. So, peace, everybody. Have a great day. I'm going to see music. My husband and I are actually going to go see Joe Bonamassa. And it's really a big thing for us to get out of the house. So I wanted to talk to you and have a good day. Let's try to be positive because most everything is pretty negative, pretty ugly. Hi, Dwayne. Hi, Bio. Hi, Forest Dweller. Everybody with me, thanks. Thanks. And even if you think I'm full of shit, I'm full of hopium, it doesn't hurt. And I know you guys do these things. Even the most angry of you. I know that you do these things. You do a lot of things to have a clean environment. I know it.